Okay, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here and speaking about my favorite thing, which happens to also be my job. I'm gonna start with the regular self-presentation. I'm gonna be fast because I prefer to talk about the actual motion capture, not so much about myself. So I'm currently the animation and motion capture lead at Worldwide Effects. I started specializing in motion capture, and this is still my favorite thing to do because after, as you can see, almost 5 years of experience in this field, I'm still fascinated and I love working with it, and I really like to explore new ways to do it and apply it and find ways to make use of this wonderful technology. I'm very passionate about everything that's connected to animation, and the main thing about me is that I'm just a person who managed to turn a hobby into a career, and I'm super happy about that and the chance that I have to do that. I'm interested in all kinds of new technologies, and I'm always trying to keep myself up to date with what's happening in the 3D industry. It all started for me actually with photogrammetry because I was doing video and I was interested in photography. And at some point, I realized that I can actually make 3D models with photos. And I was like mind blown with this thing. I saw one video on YouTube by one Blender artist. And so I started playing around with Blender and trying all different things. And my first animation was super absurd. I didn't know what a rig is, so I just cut the geometry of a model that I did of myself, and I made myself wave like this, and I sent it to a person that I know, and he told me, "Wow, this is super cool." And I'm like, "That's not cool. It's nothing. It's just super amateur hobbyist work." They're like, "No, you should go work for Worldwide Effects." And I was like, "What is Worldwide Effects?" So I researched the company, and that's when I realized that while we have this super amazing VFX studio that has existed for over 20 years right here in Bulgaria, that's working on amazing productions, and I said to myself, I have to work there. And so I started checking out positions that they have available and waiting for the moment to start working there. And so my colleague Ivailo already told you a lot about our studio. So it's the same slide. I'm not going to go over it again. I'm just going to say what Worldwide Effects means to me, because this is where I started my journey in the industry. It was the company that gave me a chance because I am self-taught. I didn't go to animation school or study 3D in university. I had a background in audiovisual production, so I knew what a producer is, I knew how to handle a camera, what a director does, what a screenwriter does, and everything about cameras, but I didn't have this practical or formal education in the 3D sphere. I was just a hobbyist using Blender to make their hand go like this. My journey there started with motion capture, and I started working in the motion capture that was actually set up for the film Hellboy. I'm going to play you the reel of Worldwide Effects that is for Hellboy. Actually, wait a moment. But I'm just gonna ask to play it without the audio, because I want to explain you about the specific things that we did with motion capture on this reel. And it's supposed to play. It's not playing. No. And let's play. Let's play. Yep. So you're probably familiar with the story of Hellboy. He's a creature kind of man that actually helps humans. So in this is the movie where we had a lot of creature work, and this is animation that is very easily done with motion capture and very hard to do by hand. So even these harpies that you see flying around here were also animated with motion capture. We had one of our CG supervisors laying these harpies here, laying on the table and going like this. And we were actually able to transfer all of this animation onto those characters. And we had a lot of shots on this. It took a lot of work on our end, and especially these creatures were super interesting to do. So over here, this is the scene where you have the dark creatures. They're the creatures that you see staying here on the rocks, and they're kind of minions of this Blood Queen. And this was our chance to develop fully developed characters and record all the motions for them, and really come close to creating actually something close to an animated film. So since we had a lot of animation to do for this movie, it was decided that the budget that could be spent to hire another motion capture studio to do all of this animation would be better spent to actually make a motion capture studio of our own, because that way we can just have it, and the budget will be spent, and then we can actually use it for all of the other projects that we have in the future. So motion capture, okay, so now you saw what it can be used for. You probably know what it's used for, but what is it anyway? When I started working as a motion capture specialist and in this industry, I had this conversation with every person that asked me, so what do you do for a living? And I told them, well, I do motion capture. And the reactions that I get vary a lot depending on the background of the person. So you have people that are not very well, they have very little understanding of what motion capture is, of the film industry or anything. And then you have people that are for 10 years, 20 years in the game industry. And they're, of course, yeah, I know what motion capture is. And then you have the people that don't know it, they don't know anything. And usually the most common reactions that I get is, oh yes, motion capture, like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And that's why I have him here. Basically, it's impossible to talk about motion capture without talking about Gollum and Andy Serkis, who is the person who played him. Because this is the first major example of motion capture being used in a basically blockbuster movie, in such a great movie that's become a classic, and so many people know about it and have seen it. So this was made 20 years ago, so of course the technology has developed a lot, but this was the person who started it. And so this is what people usually remember when you tell them motion capture. And it doesn't matter what the background of the person is. Usually what people have in common is that they know what motion capture can do, they know what it's used for, but they don't know what exactly it is and how the whole magic happens. And so what is motion capture? I think the best way to show something is to give an example, especially a personal example. So I'm going to show you how the character is being moved by a skeleton. In this situation, it's going to be, again, it's not playing, play, doesn't play. So this is alien character that we did for one movie, and you can see how it's directly moved by the skeleton. You can play it one more time. Thank you. And this skeleton that you see over here, it's actually me. If people that know me can recognize my signature, the signature way that I keep my feet kind of like pointing towards each other. And here you can also notice how well the motion capture system is able to capture all of the small movements of the body, the specifics of the walk, and all of this. So in this sense, you can see that what is motion capture? Motion capture is the process of taking the actions of an actual human, the moves of an actual human. It doesn't even have to be a human. It can be a dog. It can be an object, and turn them into 3D animation, basically turn them into 3D curves. Sounds like magic, right? How does this happen? When I was working on this lecture, I was thinking a lot about how I can approach this subject, and depending on the type of people that I have in front of me, how much they know, and their idea. And usually I would start from the beginning. So you have equipment, you do this, you do that, and then in the end, I would show the final result. But in this situation, I thought it would be better to see what we get, and then to see how we get there. So I'm gonna give another example here. Another example, just to show you the creatures that I talked about earlier. Because it's interesting, in games, usually you're using motion capture for animation systems, and you're usually transferring animation from a human character, from an actual human, to a human character. But what I find most fun to do personally, and we want to have fun, is figuring out how to transfer the actions of a human to a creature. So for example, here you can see that we have a person, and we have a creature which has very different proportions. So it has very short legs, very long hands, huge head, and a tummy. Left. Yep. And so here is the person doing like a belly rub and a scratch and just kind of looking around. And then you have the creature. And as you can see, it's not just copy-paste from one bone to the other. There is also the thing that we call like retargeting and polishing, which is figuring out how to actually transfer the animation properly to the characters so that it fits their proportion, it fits their personality, and actually gives them life. Because when you see something like this, you want to see a goblin in this situation, and you want to feel that it's a goblin. You don't want it to look like a goblin that's being puppeteered by a human. So, giving you this example, we can now answer the question, what is motion capture? So it's the process of using technology and mathematical equations. They're very important. So it's kind of more of a technical aspect of animation to record the actions of actual humans, or in this situation, you can also see, this is me again. And it's not only my motion that's being recorded and transferred to this character. You can see in the back in the monitor, this is the software that we're actually using. But also, I'm holding a prop, in this case, a katana, and there's also markers on it. So the movement of the katana is also going to be recorded, and also it will also be transferred to the character. Let's go. It's okay. And so again, to answer the question, to come back to reactions and questions I've had when I was talking to people about this, motion capture is not the people with the green suits. This is very important. The green suits are a totally different thing. They're connected to another department, more in the 2D department. They're connected to rotoscoping or even maybe rotomation, but they're not used for motion capture. Can you give me a second? Oh, no, that's fine. I can talk without it as well. So, okay, you saw the skeleton, and you know that we need to gather some kind of information. We need to record some kind of information to be able to make the skeleton move. And there are many different ways to do that. You can use equipment, and you can also use videos. The main two ways the two main ways to do motion capture there are two systems. So the first system is considered an optical system, which uses visual information. So that would be cameras. And then the cameras can be tracking markers. These markers can be active, they can be passive. Or an optical system can also use only video. And there are these type of markerless motion capture systems. They're not quite systems, it's more like a process. And they use AI, use pose estimation tools to be able to actually use video and kind of try to figure out what the pose of the person is at any given moment and translate that into 3D space.
I have a question that you don't need the presentation to answer.
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
Absolutely.
How often do you guys use like actual actors to motion capture? How often do you just like don the clothes and just do it yourself?
Yeah, I have it in the presentation.
I have it. All right.
No,
all right,
no,
okay.
but I'm gonna answer it now because I don't have visuals for it anyway. So in ideal scenario. So motion capture works best when you have good planning. So in the ideal scenario, we would know the sequence that we're going to record. We would have all of the rigs that we need. All the characters will be made already in 3D space. We would have the director on set. We would have professional actors, professional stuntmen in the suits. We would have the motion capture supervisor, that would be me in this situation, and motion capture specialists working on the computers. And then we would know exactly what we have to do with the shot lists. And then the director or the VFX supervisor can be a director, like the external one or the one from our company. He would give directions to the actors, and we would record everything, make sure everything is in place, prepare the actors, record the movements, because what we do is, it's called live retargeting. And that way, the thing that you saw with the goblin, for example, the creature, the moment the actor moves, this would be directly transferred to the goblin. So the director doesn't even need to look at the actor. He can look directly at the goblin, and then you say, okay, we need him to be a bit more buffy, a bit more like this. And this is great because the actual director can see how things are going to look like. He doesn't need to wait for us to provide him with a shot, to have everything ready, and he can already give notes on the spot. And this is very valuable because it helps us deliver animations way faster, because we don't need to go back and forth for feedback all the time because the director was there. He can give his own input. But this is the ideal situation. But very often, we don't have the luxury of having the director on spot. And things need to happen very fast, so we can't do castings for actors and stuff like that. So we do this very often. Yeah, the animation crew, we go down in the motion studio, we put on the suits, and we just play out the actions how we imagine that they would happen. And I actually think this is actually very fun for the animator and very helpful.
It looks
because we're animators. We're kind of like we're animators, but we're also directors. We're also actors. We're also cameramen, because we also do the cameras when we have a full CG shot. We also animate the cameras. So we're kind of this roundup specialist, and depending on the moment, we take on a different role. And when you're on the motion capture stage, you can be the actor. Otherwise, I mean, when you're doing animation, you always need to have a reference. And it's very common when you're doing character animation to record yourself. So, for example, I have a shot where I need to go like this. I need to pick up an object and look around and maybe wonder where this object came from. So I would record myself in front of the mirror and then use this as a reference. But when you have a motion capture system, you don't even need to record yourself and then actually do the animation in 3D space. You just put in the suit and you can already see yourself. And we have the monitors in our studio. Over there you can see them. And you can directly see yourself. So if you're a Buffy character, you can go like this. Okay, I need to be more like this. If you have a kind of a creepy character, you can see this played out in real time. And it's very valuable and it's very fun. I love to do it. I love getting in the suit, like from the beginning. Now I'm a lead, but I still love it. And it's super fun. And it's also fun for the people that are involved because we've from all of the motion capture sessions that we had, I can maybe remember like two people that didn't look like they were having enormous amount of fun. And the fact that I can remember these two people means that there were only these two people out of all of these other people that were having enormous fun. And the thing they always like to do when you put on the suits and they see themselves as the character or they see themselves as a Power Ranger, you're gonna see it later over there on the table. The first thing that everybody starts to do is dance. Everybody wants to see themselves dance like a 3D character. It's just, I guess that's what just shows that people are enjoying it, and there is this spark that you want to see yourself dance because it's interesting and you're enjoying it. So back to the presentation now. I already mentioned these types of motion capture systems. The optical is what we have, so I'm gonna focus more on that. But you also have the inertial systems, and the difference is that they don't use any optical information. They use physical devices like gyroscopes and accelerometers. They're also put into specific places over the body, and as you can see, they also have a suit that they wear. But they use information about velocity and movement to kind of estimate the position of the specific bones of the body. So I already mentioned our motion capture studio and how much fun we have there. This is how it looks like, a bit about our system. It's an optical motion capture system. We have 32 cameras. Vicon. We're not bragging, but it's considered a high-end motion capture system. These are the best cameras that you can get at this point. And we're able to cover a 7 by 7 by 3 meter volume, which is actually pretty big. And we were able to play out very complex scenes. We can capture a lot of actors. We've had people hanging from the ceiling, jumping on ropes, climbing stairs, going down hills, fighting, of course, a lot of fighting with swords, with all kinds of weapons. And a question that I often get is, how many people were you able to capture at the same time? And we're always beating our record. The truth is that we don't know. At this point, like the most people we've been able to capture is the most that we've tried. And at this point, it was 9 people with props at the same time, which because we're kind of technical people. I know you like numbers, so that's a total of 66 markers that we had to put because. As you can see here on this actor, he has little markers on him. And there are different marker sets that we use. The current one that we use has 57 markers. Then you have clusters, which tell the system which actor is who. And then you have 4 markers on each prop. And so you can imagine the whole team putting markers on 9 people at the same time. And then we have to take the markers off. So for one day, we put and we took off like 1,200 markers. And so this specific scene, I still can't show you, but I can show you something pretty similar. It's not 9 people; it's just 5. But this is how the motion looks in our software. Basically, the red things are the props, and you can see the people attacking. And what you may notice is how, so this is straight out of the system. This is something that the cameras just see and they create it. Now they're going into the signature T pose. This is the pose that we use to calibrate them, and this is the pose that the system remembers them in. And you can see, like, you can notice how these are 4 different people. Like, right, they have their own way of walking, they have their own secondary motions, and the optical system is very good at detecting these. Now, other systems can also capture these movements, but the detail that's straight out of the box, and there is no noise to clean. This is exactly how it comes out of the system. And it's pretty impressive. And I remember when I first started working at Worldwide Effects, we started working with motion capture that was already recorded at first, and then we were recording our own. And we were looking at a lot of data and like practicing to clean it, and then transferring it to all of the creatures. And so, because this was my beginning in the animation industry, I was looking a lot, and I was thinking, okay, if I look at enough realistic animation, I'll be able to do it myself. And so I was looking at these skeletons moving, all of these small movements. And then we go to lunch, and we're sitting with my colleagues, which were doing the same, of course. And you have these 3 super tall men pass by us, and I look at them, and I'm thinking, I have seen this walk. I have seen this person. And I look at him, and this is Genko. This is one of the stuntmen. For sure, I've never seen this person. I've never seen his face, but I already was able to recognize him just by the way that he walks, just by this amazing capture, this amazing transfer of his movement that I was able to see on a skeleton. So we answered kind of the question, what is motion capture? Kind of what can you do with it? And now maybe it's kind of technical, but I'll try to explain it in a simple language. It's time to go into the how. Okay, so how does the system do this? So we have 32 cameras, and they 5 minutes. Oh man. Damn, okay. So, okay, I'm gonna go fast through this. Okay, so you see the ring over here. This ring actually emits infrared light, and this infrared light gets reflected from the markers. So, yep. So what you see here is actually what the cameras see. And to us, it just looks like random noise, just dots somewhere in space. But thanks to the mathematical equations and the calibration that we do, the system is actually able to use this marker information to create bones and then record animation on these bones. So these are kind of the steps. Over here, you see the markers. So before we saw them, just it's called unlabeled. They're just somewhere in space. Here we see them labeled, so they have some kind of color. So they have relationship between themselves. This is the relationship between themselves that they have. So these markers, these 3 markers affect this part of the body. These 4 markers affect the head. They don't affect, they basically create it. And then the bones are created. You can see all of the bones, they're created based on those markers, and they're moved based on the position of these markers. And then this is just a visual representation of the skin, so that you kind of have a better idea of how they move. And this is very fascinating what the system does, but this is how we get the animation. Some benefits, I already went through them while we were waiting for the presentation to load again. So motion capture in the film industry. These are just some of the movies that we were able to successfully apply motion capture in. And you can apply it in all stages of production because of all of these benefits. It's fast, it's high quality, And you can use it for many different things. The untapped potential that I found really was pre-visualization, because it's just so easy to do. It's just so easy to block out things that need to happen, because otherwise, when you're doing, you're in the very early process, and the director is kind of still stitching up the movie in his mind. And usually in the previs, you just have these blocks. So you have like a stick figure going like here, and then going like here, just a couple of keyframes. And this doesn't give you a real idea of how long an action will take. And then with motion capture, you know exactly how long it will take from a person to go to point A to point B, or for two person to meet, or for from two people to interact in any kind of way. And of course, virtual production, just the potential is so big, to have one of the LED panels that Ivailo told you before. And of course, the main purpose of motion capture is to support the animation department. I can go through this. So the challenges of the animation department is that we're usually really in the middle of the production process. So you can see when we're having live footage, CG over live footage, we're right in the middle, like right after the shot has been tracked. So kind of the whole CG process starts with us. And this is the moment where you get a lot of feedback. We're laying out the shot, what's going to happen when, where is this person going to be, what's going to happen. We even have to mark the explosions that are later going to be done in simulation. And all of the other departments, if we start learning late, we start eating their time. And they start getting nervous, like, come on, give us the shot. We need to start working on it. And so we can't afford being late. So everything needs to happen fast. But the thing about animation is it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time. It's hard. And it requires a lot of feedback. So there's always back and forth. And having a motion capture studio and having the ability to use motion capture is just crucial, because otherwise, it's very easy to become a bottleneck, especially when we're doing full CG shots, like a quick case study I'm going to show. We're right in the beginning, right? So everything starts with us, and all of the other departments are waiting on us. And so why use motion capture? We answer all of the other questions, and the audio-video production is a very dynamic process, and especially in VFX, maybe compared to games, we have external clients, so we're not in total control of the time frame. And the people you're showing, the people that are giving your feedback, are not only your supervisors, but it's a director who may not necessarily be aware of the time that it takes to do CG. He can be a director. He can be even a screenwriter. We've had situations where the screenwriter also gives notes on the VFX. And it's very important to be able to do fast changes. And if you're going for a traditional keyframe workflow, that's way harder. And I'm not even talking about the realism, like the details. It's a given. But how fast things can happen, the way the animators are able to support their process, it's truly the most important thing. So moving forward, I was going to talk a lot about these guys, but this was a project where this is the closest that we got to actually doing an animated film. It was a film about how these three aliens find the Voyager, and they're looking at the whole history of mankind, that they're kind of judging us, thinking, okay, these humans, what should we do with them? And motion capture was very crucial, first to do kind of a character development for them. Like over here, you already saw this, but like figuring out how the creature is going to move, what's going to be their characteristics, because they don't give you a lot of information. Like they say, oh, well, they're aliens, okay, but we need to figure out how they move. And the other important thing was to be able to do fast iterations because we had a very limited time, and without motion capture, none of the shots would have been possible because the clients were changing their idea all of the time. They were, oh no, I want this alien to look at the other one. No, I want the other one to look at this one and then rub his hand. And if we were doing this with keyframe animation, it would have been impossible. And of course, no spoilers, you're probably not gonna watch it, but in the end, their decision was pretty obvious, just kill all humans. And yes, so here these three characters are played out by me and the team. So they were played out by us as animators because we just put on the suits and we need to do these actions, let's do it. And we were able to, just in one day, we were able to record all of the, I think there were like 40 shots that we had to do, and we were able to record them in one day and then spend all of our time refining and everything else. And running out. Okay, I'm good with time. Okay. So motion capture in the game industry, you already know this, but it's more common in games. It's even a must for AA titles because you have a large amount of animations. They need to be shared between characters, and as much as in the VFX, we were able to fake things with the camera. So for example, here in the aliens that you saw, they were only from the waist up. So we didn't really have to bother to animate the lower part. But if you're doing games, if you're doing gameplay, you can't afford that because the camera can be moved from any direction. Motion capture can be super valuable to develop procedural animation systems like motion fields and machine learning. That's when you don't have like cut up animations that you're going to use and just put them in a state machine, but the state machine can make decisions which animation to use depending on the information that it has been fed. And final thoughts. It's very important to say this. Motion capture can never replace animator. None of the things that you've seen or that you see in the movies, because it's very popular, especially in superhero movies. You see it all the time. You just don't know that it's motion capture. It cannot be done without animators. It just cannot be done. Whatever we use from the motion capture, we never use it straight away. It needs editing, it needs polishing, it needs an animator hand to turn it into something real and something beautiful. And the proof, as I began with Andy Serkis, motion capture has been here for 20 years, and animators are also still here. It's a great tool and has allowed us to work on projects that were otherwise impossible. Even go outside of our industry because we've done games, we've done advertisements, we've done AR experiences, all kinds of things. And I'm 5 years in, I'm still fascinated, and I love talking about it. So thank you for listening to me. And questions?
Any questions?
Thank you. Hi, Petya. Really nice presentation, first of all, so thank you so much for that. You said you are self-taught on that, and I just wanted to ask if you can give any recommendations for good sources to learn all of that, and approximately how long it takes to become more professional like yourself.
Okay, so my self-taught aspect was actually with Blender. So YouTube tutorials, but the thing about animation and especially motion capture, first, motion capture, you can't learn it anywhere in Bulgaria. No school teaches it. No school has a system or anything like that. So the best way to learn it was like me to get a chance to work in the industry. I would not have been able to do this if I hadn't been given the chance. But what you can learn is you can learn how to use motion capture because there are a lot of free resources, so free animations that you can use, and you can learn how to transfer them to a character. So good resources, Mocapis, they have a website where they talk about retargeting and how to use motion capture, and they also give some resources where you can find them. And the hard thing about animation, it's very hard to get good at it alone. So you need constant feedback. So even if you need to study the 12 principles, and then you need to animate. You just need to animate. It's not gonna happen just by reading. You need to animate, and then you need to put your work out. You need to show your work to people so that they can tell you, okay, this works, this doesn't work. They need to give you feedback, because when you're starting off, you still don't have this good eye, and maybe you do an animation and you know something is not okay, but you don't know what, and you need to find a person that can give you feedback. And I can tell an advice would be reach out to people, and like if you're interested in something, the way I was interested in worldwide effects, like. I learned about them, and I said to myself, I'm gonna work there. And I was checking their website, and I was checking their Facebook page, and that's how I found out that they're opening a motion capture studio, and I can start working there. And that's how my career started off. And sometimes, like, people tell you a lot that you need to be hardworking, you need to study a lot, you need to learn all of this, you need to become an expert. And that is true, you do need that. I do have that. I am hardworking, and I am proactive and everything like that. But you also need to be a bit lucky, and luck is not just gonna come to you. You also need to search for it. You can't just sit and wait for good things to happen to you. You just need to try and find a way for them to reach you.
Thank you so much, Petya.
I have a quick question. I believe I saw a submarine in one of the Hellboy shots, and I was wondering if you end up reusing animations or characters or assets, as we saw a few submarines, well, a submarine in Ivailo's presentation as well.
Oh, yes. In terms of animation, we do, of course. We have a library that we keep there all of the animations that we've ever recorded and kept from different resources, because why have all of these animations if you're not gonna reuse them? Okay, so if it's a very specific scene, like an acting scene, we don't want to have it in another movie, but all kinds of locomotions like running, falling, diving, standing up, all these kind of different like simple animations, we definitely reuse them, yeah. And whenever we have we often use motion capture for crowds. Like in The Outpost, we had these like a whole bunch of Talibans running down the mountain, and they're all different running animations, right? And when you have a variety, that's when it doesn't look like a generated crowd. Because if we just record one animation, put it on everyone, it's just gonna look ridiculous. And so whenever we have, we also do a lot in the VFX, we do digital doubles. So when there is a scene that needs to be fully CG, and so the actor is not recorded, we have a complete photogrammetry made copy of the actor, and we put some kind of motion capture on them. And if it's something that, okay, we see this shot, and first we're thinking, oh, do we have this kind of animation already? Or do we need to go to the studio? And if we have the animation already, we can just reuse it. So it's common, yes, and it's the same in games. I mean, especially between characters, animation systems, we do that, yeah.
Hey, so the first time I learned about motion capture was 100,000 years ago when the first Avatar came out. And with the risk of asking too technical a question, can you give me an idea of how the motion capture technology has changed since then? Because we're expecting the second movie this December. And it was big when it came out and people were talking about it, oh, motion capture, it's so innovative. And now it's just common, it's a common thing. Thank you.
Yeah, well, since then, we can say that the principles, because the Avatar was also made with an optical system. So the theory has not changed a lot. So we realized that, okay, we can use markers, and these markers can be transferred into bones, and these bones can be used to drive a 3D rig. What has changed is that the technology is getting much better. And also, the retargeting process is getting much better. So what has developed much better is, okay, so we have this information. The thing that's, the body capture hasn't developed that much, I can say. Fingers have developed a lot because they were nearly impossible to capture before, and they had to be fully animated. But the facial structure is something that's much harder, because the body, each human has relatively the same proportions. So we have little differences, we have our own imperfections, but it's basically the same. So when you look at two skeletons of two people, they may be like, one may be taller, one may have like slightly longer arms, but they're fundamentally the same. They have the same amount of bones and everything. But the faces of humans are very different, very different. Again, you have the proportions, but all of the little wrinkles, the way the person smiles, each person smiles a different way. So it's very hard to even to transfer facial animation from one person, because again we've done digital doubles, so we make a perfect copy of a person's face, but you can't drive him by the facial expressions of another person. It just doesn't look like them, because again everybody smiles a different way, everybody shrugs a different way, and different shapes of eyebrows. We have the same muscles, but they move a different way. So developments in this sphere is, I think, where motion capture has developed the most in the past years. And it's not only connected to motion capture, it's also connected to the way we construct facial rigs. The system that is used, a lot of, especially, Industrial Light and Magic, they have their own. They have a lot of proprietary software and even hardware. What we use is like Vicon. It's a commercial system. It's widely available for entertainment, and the studios develop their own things. So we don't even know how it works. It can give us a bit of an idea with their how it's made and the reels and previews. But a lot of machine learning is involved. That is maybe that can also be said that we didn't have that like 20 years ago. Machine learning is helping a lot.
Any more questions? Okay, we have a question from YouTube. So, yeah.
Okay.
I've heard actors get paid for doing their job. Do animators get additional payment for doing an actor's job as well as their own?
No, no, we don't.
That's the short answer.
It's we're getting paid in fun. Yeah, actually, it's a good moment to mention that what I enjoy a lot, and I think the other people appreciate about motion capture, is that because we're VFX artists, we're used to sitting on the computer. And when I say that I work in the film center in New Guyana, a lot of people ask me, "Oh, you must be seeing all of the actors, all of the popular people, meeting some famous people." And I'm like, "No, I'm just in front of the computer, and I'm just doing animation. I'm doing 3D." But when we're doing motion capture, you actually have the sense that you're on set, because you're there, you're active, you're not just on the computer. You get to meet the actors, the stuntmen. You're always running around, grabbing markers from the ground, putting them back on the actors, and you get this sense of this part of the movie magic that we, as VFX artists, kind of miss out on. And I guess that can be called some kind of payout from it.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions, let's thank Petya for the fun
Thank you.
talk.
Thank you.